Hello everyone, thanks for joining me today on episode 1, Welcome to 2000. We're gonna talk about evolution of malware and anti-malware in a period of time from 2000 to 2005. Stick with me and I hope you're gonna enjoy this episode. Overview of what we're going to talk today about, the time frame of 2000 to 2005. We will cover some key characteristics of that time, both economical and technological, which I believe had affected both malware and anti-malware. We will talk about Malicious Landscape, give quick overview of P format so people who doesn't have much experience in it are still staying on the same page and can continue to learn from our series. We'll talk about viruses, polymorphic code, network and email worms. On anti-malware technology side, we'll talk about AV signatures, x86 emulators, AV scripting languages, and different type of heuristics. Stay with me, that's going to be a pretty fun episode. I hope you're going to like it. What are the key characteristics of this era? Internet is slow and expensive. Even though the e-commerce has been developing for some time, we just about to witness dot-com burst, so there is a lot of both excitement and disillusionment about internet at this period of time. Internet overall is still slow. We're talking about kilobytes per second speed, best case scenarios. It's expensive. In many places it's not even available. The computers are slow as well. The RAM is limited and expensive. Laptops are very heavy, bulky and rudimentary. Compute cost is very high. There's no public cloud providers, not even VMs. VMware, I believe, is still a startup at that time. So there is no even concept of virtual machines on the servers or on the computers. There is also a lot of piracy. I think that's a pretty key element of that time. There's both music and film piracy, but also software industry piracy, where people, instead of paying for software, would just crack it and find the keys and also spread pirated software through different sources. That affected malware industry for sure at that period of time. On a technological side, I would like to note a few key elements as well. First of all, 2000 is the change and big shift in Windows ecosystems. Even though Windows NT has been already around for a few years, it was mostly a server operating system, it was still new. Microsoft invested a lot of energy to make Windows 2000 as well as Windows XP, which was released in 2001. As well with Windows 2000, Microsoft released IIS 5, which was a default web server for Windows 2000 and also was very, very popular, as well as had a lot of security vulnerabilities in it. In general, the Windows XP and Windows 2000 were very new architecture. Most of the malware at that time, or malware authors at that time, were still in that DOS Windows 95, 98 environments. And 2000, that's when they start to change. There are a lot of explosive research about both vulnerabilities on Windows 2000 and Windows XP, as well as research on security side of how to protect Windows XP and Windows 2000 against malware, because architecture has changed a lot. Neither malware nor anti-malware industry yet adjusted to this new architecture. On a web technology side, two notable things. One is the BitTorrent, which was released in 2001. And while at that point of time it was not used by malware yet, it's been used for piracy. Of course, the technology itself has nothing to do with piracy, but people would be using it to exchange the pirated software, meaning that if one person downloads the pirated software which infected with virus from somewhere and start to spread it, it could very quickly spread around the internet, a local network, through the BitTorrent as well. And another notable thing is open mail relays. It's SMTP servers which still exist around in 2000, and what they allow to do, they allow to send emails without authentication and authorization requirement, meaning spammers or email worms usually easily abuse and were abusing their servers for their reasons. what about Malicious Landscape of this time? The number itself was not too overwhelming for antivirus industry to work with. Dominant malware types at that time would be viruses, including pretty advanced or very advanced polymorphic ones. And the reason they were very advanced, because viruses, since they were most dominant type of malware at that time, that's why the whole industry used to call antivirus industry, they were still very often developed by security experts. And there was a competition back in time when people would try to develop the best virus engines and best polymorphic engines to just show off their skill, not as much to earn money or develop some sort of illegal business. Meaning the people who would be developing the viruses and polymorphic engines would be one of the most advanced security experts of the time. The second group of malware would be email and network worms, and as I mentioned before, there were certain key characteristics like ISS5 being released, open mail relay servers available, the BitTorrent, which allow email and network worms to spread freely and fast. The packers, they were relatively primitive. In general, while packers can be classified in at least three categories as compressors, cryptors, and protectors, at that time, most of the packers, if not all of the packers, would be a compressor packers. They would not be designed to do any type of anti-evasion or to hide malware. Instead, they were designed for benign purposes, to compress executable files so they could be transferred through internet faster. So any software developer, of course, because internet would be slow and expensive, would like to compress their files into in a smaller size, but still make it easier for user to use. So just double-click execution. So the packers, and there would be 20 or 30 different variation of packers at that time, they would be primarily used to reduce the size. That would be relatively easy to unpack statically. So antiviruses would not need to emulate packers. Instead, they could just write a static algorithms, and we will talk a bit later about that. At the same time, most of the malware was built for fame. Again, there was still a lot of security people, like hackers, which would not have much of the business or criminal purpose in developing of malware, but instead would just want to prove the point. Either the point that they best security people, or the point that security of that time sucked, some sort of resonating point. And they would write malware for that purposes. And of course, there would be already some criminal businesses as well, such as spam and DDoS. I guess they would not be such a big industry as they are nowadays, but they already would affect the malware landscape for sure, even at that time. Now you know more about key characteristics of 2000 to 2005 timeframe, as well as how Malicious Landscape looked like at that time. Let's dive deeper into some technical detail in our next video.